At first glance, the explorer sounds purely inspiring, adventurous, curious, bold enough to push beyond the known and discover new horizons. Maybe you felt that call yourself, the itch to break free from routine, to see what lies beyond the map, to live life on your own terms. But what if I told you that this same drive, as thrilling as it seems, can also sabotage the very person who embodies it? Restlessness, recklessness, even self-destruction can creep in when exploration turns into compulsion. Yet when balanced, the explorer is one of the most powerful archetypes for growth, freedom, and transformation. We all know the hero, the one who battles villains and saves the world. But the hero's journey usually starts because the explorer dared to leave the village in the first place. Most archetypes owe a debt to the explorer. The dreamer who breaks the boundary, the seeker who challenges tradition, the pioneer who makes new paths possible. Think of the curious adventurer, the rebellious dreamer, the trailblazer who risks it all for discovery. Today, we're diving deep into the explorer archetype, its strengths, its shadow side, and how embracing it properly can transform your life into something extraordinary. By the end of this video, you'll see how to seek freedom without becoming enslaved by the raider's shadow. Carl Jung divided the human psyche into three main parts. First, we have the conscious mind, or ego, which shapes our awareness of ourselves and the world around us. It's the part of you that plans your day, remembers appointments, and makes decisions. Then we have the personal unconscious, which stores forgotten memories and suppressed thoughts. This is where the shadow lives, the parts of ourselves that we reject or deny. Integrating the shadow uncovers hidden strengths and prevents repeated mistakes. For the explorer, the shadow is particularly powerful because the desire for freedom can be twisted into recklessness or exploitation if ignored. Finally, the collective unconscious is a shared human reservoir beyond the individual. Here we find the 12 archetypes, universal patterns of behavior that are present in myths, stories, and dreams. Among them is the explorer, defined by curiosity, courage, and the constant search for new horizons. Each archetype carries a shadow. For the explorer, that shadow is the raider, a darker form that exploits freedom for selfish gain instead of meaningful growth. Understanding this shadow allows us to harness the explorer's strengths while avoiding its pitfalls. Think for a moment. Have you seen the raider shadow in yourself or in someone else? Keep that in mind as we explore examples from real life and pop culture. The explorer has existed in myths and stories for as long as humans have sought the unknown, representing the restless urge to go further, climb higher, and discover what no one else has. The explorer is not about saving others, that's the hero. The explorer is also not about taking care of others, that would be the caregiver. Instead, it's about expanding the horizon of the self. We see the explorer in countless characters. Indiana Jones, driven to uncover lost civilizations and ancient secrets, his courage inspires both awe and danger. Moana, who leaves her island because the call of the sea is stronger than her comfort. Her adventure is personal growth, not conquest. Lara Croft, whose hunger for discovery pushes her past fear into danger, constantly testing herself and her limits. And Marco Polo, whose travels opened entire worlds to Western imagination, showing how exploration can reshape societies, not just individuals. These figures demonstrate the explorer's gifts: curiosity, courage, and a refusal to be confined. But there is a catch. When the desire for freedom loses balance, the explorer risks slipping into the raider shadow. Think about someone you know, or even yourself, who constantly chases the next big thing, a new job, city, relationship, or adventure. At first, it's exciting, but eventually, without reflection, it can become exhausting, ungrounded, or even destructive. The shadow side of the explorer, the raider, emerges when exploration becomes self-serving or reckless. Instead of seeking growth or understanding, the raider plunders experiences, people, or even places without care for consequences. Thrill becomes addiction, freedom becomes escape. In real life, this might look like someone who never settles. Job hopping, relationship hopping, city hopping. They chase novelty but never cultivate depth or stability. The cost is often broken relationships, lost opportunities, and exhaustion. Pop culture provides clear examples. Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean is clever, witty, daring, but at his worst, he's selfish and destructive. Freedom slides into chaos. Jay Gatsby in The Great Gatsby, obsession with dream life consumes him, ultimately raiding his own soul. And Walter White in Breaking Bad has independence and curiosity that begin as exploration but evolve into conquest and destruction. Psychologically, Jung would argue that the raider appears when the need for freedom is fueled by fear. Fear of intimacy, fear of being trapped, fear of facing the self. The explorer becomes the raider when adventure is no longer about growth, but about escape. Some characters, like Moana, show that the explorer can thrive without falling into the raider trap. She remains rooted in purpose and connection, showing that the power of exploration lies not just in leaving, but in discovering something meaningful to bring back. Let's take a closer look at 4 major advantages of the explorer archetype. When applied intentionally, these qualities can transform how you grow, succeed, and find meaning. I will include examples from stories and pop culture to make these principles vivid. Out of all of these, I would say that number 4 is often the most overlooked and could change the way that you see your own path. Number 1, curiosity and innovation. Curiosity and innovation are central to the explorer archetype, reflecting the human drive to push boundaries and seek new possibilities. Reed Richards from Marvel Comics' Fantastic Four embodies this, as his insatiable curiosity about the unknown drives him to discoveries that reshape entire worlds. His explorations are not just physical journeys, but intellectual ones, constantly redefining what's possible. This demonstrates how the explorer channels curiosity into breakthroughs that advance both self and society. In your own life, you've probably experienced moments where curiosity led you to learn something new, travel somewhere unfamiliar, or try and approach others overlooked. These choices often spark growth, creativity, and deeper self-understanding. The explorer archetype reminds us that innovation doesn't begin with answers. It begins with daring to ask the next question. In other words, this is a quality that a lot of scientists, creators, artists should have. And speaking of curiosity, exploration isn't just about invention. It also unlocks hidden resilience and strength when the path is uncertain. Number 2, resilience and adaptability. Resilience and adaptability flow naturally from the explorer's willingness to face uncertainty. Mulan in Disney's Mulan demonstrates this when she disguises herself to join the army, stepping into completely uncharted territory. She must adapt to rigorous training, hostile peers, and a dangerous battlefield, all while hiding her true identity. Her resilience not only helps her survive, but allows her to transform, showing that adaptability in new environments builds strength and confidence. In your own life, think about the times when you were forced out of your comfort zone. Whether it's a new job, a difficult move, or stepping into an unfamiliar community. At first, these experiences may feel overwhelming, but over time, they shape resilience. The explorer archetype teaches that true adaptability isn't about control, but about flowing with change until it forges new strength. But explorers don't just survive new terrain, they also see possibilities that others can't. So at number 3, we have vision and perspective. Explorers provide vision by revealing perspectives hidden to those who remain in comfort zones. Hiccup, the main character in How to Train Your Dragon, demonstrates this when he dares to see dragons not as enemies, but as misunderstood creatures. His willingness to look past fear allows him to build peace between Vikings and dragons, transforming his entire culture. This illustrates how the explorer archetype expands perspectives, opening doors to new ways of living and relating. You might recall times when you or someone you know challenged the way things have always been done, uncovered better solutions. These shifts can reshape relationships, organizations, or even communities. The explorer archetype emphasizes that growth often comes not from fighting harder, but from seeing differently. And of course, the explorer's most obvious but still essential trait, the thrill of discovery itself. At number 4, we have the spirit of discovery. The spirit of discovery is the explorer's most iconic gift, driven by the timeless human urge to seek beyond the known. Indiana Jones exemplifies this in Raiders of the Lost Ark, constantly diving into dangerous expeditions in pursuit of ancient mysteries. His adventures ignite wonder, not just because of what he finds, but because of the daring pursuit itself. The explorer reminds us that discovery is not only about external treasures, but also about uncovering parts of ourselves along the way. In everyday life, the spirit shows up whenever someone follows curiosity into uncharted territory, learning a new language, starting a business, traveling to a new place, or even exploring philosophy and psychology. The explorer archetype embodies the psychological truth that discovery brings vitality. It's the act of seeking that awakens freedom and meaning. Now, even the most inspiring qualities can become destructive when taken too far. The raider is the shadow of the explorer, reckless, self-serving, and driven by thrill or obsession rather than meaningful growth. These traits often reflect past experiences, unhealed fears, or a need to prove oneself. If you're not self-aware, it is likely that you carry at least one pattern that leaves you restless, scattered, or unsatisfied. Facing the raider shadow is essential to turn exploration into growth rather than chaos. The first disadvantage is impulsivity and recklessness. In One Piece, many pirate crews show the Morganeer qualities of raiders, driven by conquest, plunder, and domination rather than discovery or wisdom. Antagonists like Blackbeard and Big Mom embody this dangerous side of exploration, but Kaido embodies the raider archetype pushed to its extreme. Kaido's impulsivity and recklessness are defining traits. He leaps into wars, challenges entire nations, and seeks battle without fully considering the consequences. His obsession with creating the ultimate war and believing chaos and destruction would forge the strongest world blinded him to strategy and foresight. Unlike a calculated leader, Kaido relied on brute strength, intimidation, and the rush to conflict. This lack of restraint and lack of care for others fractured alliances, left him vulnerable to betrayal, and ultimately became the path to his downfall. This is the raider's shadow. When the drive for freedom and power is driven by selfishness, it becomes self-destructive. Many of us have seen smaller versions of this in real life. People who chase thrill after thrill, or dive into risky ventures without thinking ahead. While boldness can create unforgettable experiences, unchecked impulsivity often leads to ruin. Kaido's story illustrates how even the strongest fall when recklessness overtakes wisdom. But the raider's shadow doesn't stop with reckless moves. There's a subtler danger: isolation and burnout at number 2. Explorers can become so absorbed in their quest that they neglect health, relationships, or emotional needs. Captain Hook from Peter Pan becomes consumed by his obsession with capturing Peter, which isolates him and fuels paranoia. Raiders in the shadow lose balance, leading to exhaustion, loneliness, and emotional fatigue. You may have experienced periods where pursuing a goal consumed so much energy that you skipped meals, lost sleep, or ignored important relationships. This tendency often comes from early restrictions on freedom or self-expression. Recognizing it is the first step toward balance. Sustainable exploration requires attention to personal well-being. Exploration is rewarding, but unchecked, it can also stunt growth and responsibility. At number 3, we have enabling danger or dependency. Sometimes raiders create environments where others rely too heavily on them or accept unnecessary risks. Edward Kenway from Assassin's Creed often drags allies into perilous hunts for treasure and glory. His crew trusts his boldness and cunning, but in doing so, they become dependent on his leadership in dangerous situations. This creates cycles of risk where others fail to grow independent or cautious. I once knew a group of friends in their late teens and early 20s who loved going to parties and experimenting with substances. It's normal to see that during that age, but when it's done recklessly and when it's unsafe, then let me tell you how it can become devastating. At first, it seemed like they were just chasing fun and freedom, but they often encouraged each other to take bigger and bigger risks. One night after a party, they piled into a car and drove off. There was a terrible accident. The person driving was under the influence. 3 of the people in the car passed away, 1 suffered lasting brain damage, and the driver went to jail for several years. It was devastating, and it showed me how enabling danger can spiral into tragedy when no one stops to think about responsibility. That is the raider's shadow at work. The thrill of risk can blind people to consequences, and those who follow often do not learn independence or restraint. Recognizing this shadow allows explorers to share excitement in a way that inspires growth rather than putting lives in danger. And finally, the most insidious raider shadow, number 4, obsession and disregard for boundaries. Explorers in the raider shadow can pursue ambition so single-mindedly that ethics, relationships, or personal limits are ignored. Blackbeard from One Piece is a prime example. Modeled after historical pirates and notorious privateers, he seeks domination through chaos. Unlike Luffy, who values freedom and autonomy for all, Blackbeard wants a world where survival of the fittest places him at the top. His obsession drives pillaging, manipulation, and betrayal. He does not explore for growth or discovery, but to control and to bend the world to his will. This is the shadow of seeking domination, ambition without reflection or empathy. It stunts personal growth because it sacrifices ethics, connection, and balance in the pursuit of power. Think about someone you know who must dominate discussions, workplaces, or social groups. Maybe a friend, colleague, or family member consistently sacrifices trust or collaboration for personal gain. This reminds me of people who study psychology or influence techniques, not to grow or help others, but specifically to manipulate people. The psychological drive is the same: the need to be on top at all costs. By recognizing these patterns, we can see that obsession without balance is destructive for both the individual and those around them. The true explorer learns that adventure and self-mastery are intertwined. Their journey is about balancing curiosity, courage, and action with reflection, ethics, and boundaries. Remember that recognizing the raider shadow allows you to transform restlessness, risk-taking, and obsession into deliberate, meaningful exploration. Integrating other archetypes, like the sage or hero, can support responsible exploration while maintaining ethical and relational balance. For example, a sage's wisdom helps temper impulsivity, while a hero's courage channels action toward meaningful outcomes. If you want more insights on archetypes and personal growth, then check out this video right here.